Now, Brother Johnson has asked me to share my testimony. I know several of you are aware that I've been having some health issues. And I just want to tell you about a good God that loves his people and helps his people through whatever it is in life. Last year, right here, on the last morning, during the last 10 minutes, I had an attack from what I thought was a hernia situation that blocked up on me. And as quick as I could finish up, I had to go right back here behind these curtains and lay down and get myself straight again. Well, this past October, the 1st of October, I went to my family doctor, and he sent me to Lynchburg, Virginia. Lynchburg, Virginia is 45 minutes from where I live, in a little town called Farmville, Virginia. So he sent me to Lynchburg to a hernia specialist. And I told the man, I said, I've lost 30 pounds, I have no appetite, I can't eat. And he immediately said, that's not a hernia. You've got some other issues. So he started feeling around. And he said, I think you have a tumor in your colon. He said, I have a partner here with me who specializes in that. And I'd like to set up an appointment for you to come in and see him. He did, and I went in to see the guy who was the specialist with tumors in the colon. I don't know if you ever had one or not, but boy, when they put that scope in you and they start probing around, he said he started pushing and pushing, trying to get through that blockage that was in there. Finally, he said, I can't do it. And he backed out, and I looked at him and I said, well, doctor, what are my options? What can you do to help me? And I've never heard of a doctor speak to a patient like he spoke to me. He looked me dead in the eye and he said, there's nothing I can do for you. You have stage 4 colon cancer. There's no cure for that. He said, you have a mass in your lungs and on your liver. Your tumor count shouldn't be above 5, and yours is 240 some. He said, there's nothing I can do for you. The only thing, he said, I can do for you is that blockage in your intestines is so close to being totally blocked that if that happens, you've got major issues. So the only thing I can do for you is operate on you, put a colostomy bag on your side so that that will not bother you. And then after telling me there was no hope, he said, now you and your wife go out and eat an ice cream or get a milkshake or something. And he walked out. And I thought, here's a doctor that just gave me a death sentence. And now he's telling me to go celebrate, you know. And I was just devastated. And I walked out of there with no hope. This guy said there was nothing that could be done. But I've got a good friend that wrote a song some time ago. He said, I can't make the lame to walk, and I can't make the dumb to talk. But I know a man who can. Amen. Aren't you glad you know a man who can? So I went to an oncologist, and thank God his attitude was different. He looked at me and he said, we're going to prolong your life and we're going to give you a better quality of life. He started me into a regimen of chemo treatments. 21 days each, and I went through 3 of them for 21 days, and it was tough. I'll have to tell you that. It was tough. But after those 3 treatments, he stopped for a month, and I gained 15 pounds. And during that time, they took a CT scan, and that blockage was completely gone from my intestines. But you know, that's not the end of the story. I asked the oncologist, can I see my lungs and can I see my liver on the CT scan? And he showed them to me. I always thought a mass meant something kind of large, you know. But when I looked what was on the CT scan, it was like somebody had taken a pencil and put a dot here, a dot there, a dot there, and that's all there was. And I said, well, Lord, it doesn't look like a mass to me, but anyhow, I'm thankful for what you do. So my oncologist, I got a second oncologist, and I asked him, I said, why is stage 4 cancer not curable? And he looked at me and he said, we're just not smart enough. That when you get stage 4 cancer, those cancer cells hide in places that we can't see, and we just don't know where they are. And I said, okay. A couple of days later, I was thinking about what he said, and I was praying about it, and God spoke to my heart, and he said, I know where every cancer cell is in your body. Folks, aren't you glad you've got a God that's on your side? So, I'm still taking chemo treatments, and every time I do, I remember that, and I say, God, you know where every cancer cell is in my body. Send that chemo there and kill that. Aren't you glad God knows how to help somebody else? Well, I've been battling, as I said, a hernia situation for over 25 years. I was incarcerated. And 3 weeks ago, this past Sunday, it blocked up on me. I went to the emergency room on Sunday morning at 5 o'clock, and they checked me out, and like they usually do, blood work, different things. And the doctor on call, he said, we've got a surgeon from Lynchburg that's on call here this morning, and I want him to come and look at you. And I said, okay, it'll be fine. And then he left, and I stepped across the hallway to attempt to use the restroom. And when I come back, my wife said, that surgeon's coming to check you out, and you're not going to like it. I said, why? And she told me the doctor's name, and it was the very guy that said, I can't do anything to help you. I can't do anything to help you. And when he came in and saw us, he said, I remember you all, me and my wife, I remember you all. And I got to tell him, that after 3 chemo treatments, that blockage was completely gone from my intestines. And he said to me, well, maybe it's up higher. I said, no, it's not up higher. I've had perfect bowel movements, and I know there's no obstruction in my colon. It has nothing to do with the colon. I said, it's the hernia that I need help with. And he looked at me and said, you're right. Let's see what we can do for this hernia. And he started pushing on it, trying to get to go back in place. I said, doctor, it's incarcerated. You can push it back in place. And he said, yeah, you're right. And then he said, well, we need to get something done. I said, what do you want to do? And he said, well, you need to have it fixed. And I said, well, are you going to do the surgery? I'm going to tell you, this guy had really put me down. But I said, are you going to do the surgery? He said, yes. I said, when do you want to do the surgery? He said, right now. That was about 8:30. I said, my son and daughter are down on their way here. I like to talk to my family before I make that decision. And so he said, that will be fine. And you know, that man was as nice to me and my wife as he could be. Isn't it good to know that God can change things in people's spines and hearts? And at 12 o'clock that Sunday, they took me up for surgery. And that doctor, he did a beautiful job. I'm telling you, one of the nurses told my wife, one of his nurses, because he had a surgical team with him from Lynchburg, one of his nurses said, that's the second worst hernia I've ever seen in my life. But that doctor did such a tremendous job. He cut about a 6-inch incision, in the lower part of my stomach. And I've always heard if you have hernia surgery, you will have pain afterwards. So he gave me 3 days worth of high pain medication. But when I came out of there, they took me back to my room, and to this day, I have had not one pain from that surgery. Not one. And so he went on back to Lynchburg, but listen to this. He told us, he said, I come to Farmville 3 times a year. 3 times a year. And here he showed up. The guy that said, there's nothing I can do for you. He showed up, and God blessed him to help me get my situation taken care of. And boy, if that ain't a miracle, I don't know what it is. 3 times a year, and he shows up. And my daughter said, Daddy, I'll tell you why God had him here this morning. It's because God wanted to show him that when he thinks there's nothing that can be done, there's a God in heaven that can step in and take care of every situation that we have. And let me say thank you, because many of your schools and many of your churches have been praying for me. And let me say thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. I remember going by Birch River, and Sister Anna, who was up here a while ago, when I was getting ready to leave the school, I said, if you don't mind, put me on your prayer list, because I've been diagnosed with cancer. And she looked at me and she said, Brother Stoots, don't you believe everything the doctors tell you? She said, they told my daddy he had a brain cancer, and if he's going to say his goodbyes to his family, he better make it quick. She said that was 15 years ago. 15 years ago, and he's still doing fine. Folks, we serve an awesome God. Thank you for bearing with me this afternoon to share my testimony. I'm still taking cancer treatments. That leaves me weak and short of breath. But outside of that, since I started taking the treatments the first part of October, I've never been sick, I've never thrown up, I've never had any pain. All I've had is just weakness and shortness of breath. And that's a gift from God. And I praise Him for His blessings.